Hello, my name is Arjun Chada, and today I will be explaining how the Electoral College helps to facilitate democracy instead of impede it. First off, the Constitution specifically says that the president should be elected by the electors who represent the people in their respective states. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that the outcomes of elections should be determined by a popular vote. This means by getting rid of the Electoral College, we would have to change the original ideals of our framers. We would have to change our Constitution by means of amendment, and this could also trigger a rewriting of our Constitution entirely. This would create a big political crisis, considering that our Constitution was framed and created on the basis of state and federal governments. The Electoral College shows that we are a federal republic, and without an Electoral College, there is no point in even having states. Without states, we don't have state representatives. We don't have state representation. We don't have individual representation as American citizens. Federalism and the Federal Republic are the backbones of our nation. Without an electoral college, there is no federal system. The federal system helps to maintain order, organization, balance, to make sure that each and every American citizen and individual is entitled to their own freedoms and liberties without fear of discrimination based on sex, race, religion, and more. Without the federal government, this leads the way for direct democracy, which is a problem. Because with direct democracy, states will no longer have to live in fear of the federal government and its superiority. And they would be able to pass their own laws and bills without repercussions. This could allow some states to re-legalize slavery or murder, drugs, pedophilia, and more. Our federal government helps to maintain order in our nation. It helps to make us know that we feel safe, and it helps to keep us safe as American citizens. Our federal government is meant to slow things down to counter spontaneity. Our electoral college is meant to slow things down to counter spontaneity. And with the popular vote being placed in lieu of our electoral college, not only will this lead to multiple recounts in certain states and a larger margin of error, but it also encourages voter fraud and ballot stuffing. We know that our elections are safe from rigging and unfairness because we've placed our trust in our representatives and our electors who elect our president for us. We place our trust in them because we know that they will follow the law and they will do what is right. But we cannot trust our fellow stranger. I cannot trust my neighbor 2 streets away to know if he'll make a proper and legal decision when it comes to voting. And this leads to voter fraud happening all across the nation and ballot stuffing happening all across the nation, which would increase our current margin of error tenfold. This could significantly alter our elections in favor of one candidate over another. The popular vote system will also encourage presidents to only campaign in larger urban areas with a larger concentrated population, resulting in lower population areas and rural areas being ignored and uncounted. And people in those areas will feel like their vote does not matter because their president does not care about their place, their state, their area, their county. They will feel like their vote does not matter, and this could influence them not to vote. And this also brings up a bigger issue because statistically speaking, larger urban areas are democratically driven and are more blue, rather than rural areas which are more conservative and more Republican. This is also a bigger issue because this could lead to only blue candidates being elected president because rural voters will not feel like their vote matters. The popular vote also encourages third parties to have a platform and a base to stand on, which is an issue because it has been proven that a multiple party system does simply not work. And this will simply take away from Democratic and Republican candidates. Third-party candidates are usually single-issue candidates, while Democratic and Republican candidates focus on the health, safe, and well-being of our entire nation. By having a third-party candidate having a base, this takes away from votes from the Democratic and Republican candidates. And this could lead to one candidate winning because it takes votes away from them, from the other candidate. Overall, the Electoral College is a break for mighty presidents who rely on the popular vote. For example, Hillary Clinton, who was leading in the polls, she felt that she was going to win. But ultimately, it was Donald Trump who won in a landslide. The Electoral College is a good system because it promotes each state fairly and gives each state equal representation based on the amount of people that they have in their state. Each state has a minimum of 2 electoral votes, plus 1 for each member in the House of Representatives they have. For example, California has 2 minimum electoral votes, but because they have 53 people in the House of Representatives, they have 55 electoral votes. It's spread equally and fairly. Some people feel that smaller states are unrepresented with the Electoral College rather than larger states. But this is not true. Because with the Electoral College, each state is given fair and equal representation compared to a popular vote system, and where 60,000 people in California may be blue, while only 30,000 people in Arkansas are red. Those blue people will have more of an advantage because they have more people, and their votes count more rather than the people in Arkansas whose votes don't count as much because they're not fairly represented. Also, people say that intimidations between certain demographics may be influenced in electoral colleges, but this is simply not true. In fact, if anything, this would influence the popular vote. Because let's say that the Jewish community in Arkansas would be intimidated not to vote, and so that their vote would not count, and that the Black community in Alabama would be intimidated so that they wouldn't vote. And all of a sudden, in each of these states, you see certain demographics of people not voting because they feel intimidated. And that leads to unfair representation. It leads to inaccurate representation. And it leads to the American people receiving a president that they never wanted and that they didn't want to vote for. And that they didn't vote for. With a popular vote, our entire government, our entire system, our entire country would fall into chaos. It would be destructive. It wouldn't be a rebirth. It would just be a suicide. The Electoral College gives us our rights. It gives us our say. It gives us our representation. And that is why I believe it helps to preserve democracy instead of destroying it. Thank you so much.